I'm Andrew Meyer. I'm the director of the Digital Delivery Centre at NHS Digital. We do lots of things, including providing some of the national capability for the NHS in England. We also have some responsibilities around publishing data, but we'll leave that to one side. So this is NHS IT, isn't it? This is what we all think. Everyone walks around in three-piece suits, not in a hipster way. I've gone for the full Clarkson this evening. I hope you like that. And agility is about how fast you can feed punch tape into the machine. Is that what you think? Yeah? Thank goodness for that. This is what it looks like inside. It's really not like that. It's really not, thank God it's not like that. This is I just want to share a few photos of our offices. So you can see that they're big, open. I had walls built inside the offices, so you can see them standing around those walls, specifically built so that people can collaborate together, they can build Kanban boards, they can do what they want in order to get things delivered. Even down to the orca whales at the top of the boards, which there are two now actually. There was one before, but there was Orca Gate where they went missing and they were held for ransom. So we got two, and that seems to have calmed everything down. So hopefully from those photos you can see that actually it's a lot more collaborative, a lot about engaging with each other meaning developers, people from the wider business, even people from external stakeholders who come in and join the daily stand-ups. You'll see that there's, it looks like a mirror on that picture there. That's a paper plate which we sprayed gold, and that's the golden plating. We learn straight away, don't gold plate things because you're on a never-ending task. The gold plate's there, don't bother. Minimum viable product is vital. Oh. So we also have a little bit of fun. So we had a zombie apocalypse day. How would the NHS deal from a technology perspective on a zombie apocalypse? Quite serious when you think about it, because what happens if we have a pandemic flu, for example? So that exercise was about educating graduates that were coming through and wanting to learn about NHS Digital and what we did. So we put on a little bit of a show, we built some zombies, but also with a real intent of showing them how we scale when we have something like a pandemic. The picture at the bottom left, there was a fire alarm in the middle of a stand-up. How dedicated these guys are. They took the stickies with them and carried on the stand-up in the car park, which was, you know, hats off to them. And then the two ladies, top right, they weren't part of the zombie apocalypse. They actually went into in scrubs into a theatre to see how people interacted with the technology in a theatre setting. So Barry asked me to talk a little bit about the journey that we've been on around the National Spine. So I'll first of all just explain what the National Spine is and then talk about the journey that we've been on. So the Spine is, to carry on the metaphor, it's the digital backbone of the NHS. So it has four main components: a demographics database, that's longitudinal record, it has your name, address, has all your addresses from birth, it has your GP, address of your GP, etc. That holds around 88 million records, and you may say to me, well, Andrew, there aren't 88 million people in England. There are people who migrate, come into the country, leave the country, and of course there's quite a few dead people on there as well, which we have to keep. The electronic prescription service, that supports 1.7 million prescriptions every day. The summary care record holds a summary of your meds, allergies, adverse reactions. Really, really important when you're in an emergency setting and actually the clinician doesn't know much about you. So, important if you're allergic to penicillin, for example. It also holds other information, so it could have additional information about end-of-life care preferences and things like that, really important. And something called messaging exchange. Think of this as Dropbox for health. So it's passing messages from a GP to a pathology lab and vice versa. So pathology results coming back to the GP. And there are about just under 20 million messages coming back and forth through the messaging exchange. That is all protected by something called card identity service. So that is a smart card that you put in the side of your PC or laptop. You put your PIN number in, and based on your profile, allows you access to certain information within the clinical systems and the spine. There are about 1.3 million of those smart cards in use, and there are circa 350,000 current users every day, all going out to 28,000 endpoints. So that is spine. There's something called SUS Plus and National Pandemic Flu that I mentioned earlier. I won't go on into those. There are other services that we provide as well. So we've just gone live with NHS Login, which is an authentication service for anybody, and that can scale up to 60 million users. And we are building a data services platform. One of the things that the NHS centrally have been really good at in the past is building disparate systems. The idea of the data services platform is to bring all those together. So, National Spine. So where were we? So Spine, prior to Spine 2, had been going for 10 years. It had been outsourced to a third party, BT. It started off small. It became very, very important to the NHS and the way it operated. So to give you an example, the spine slowed down, for some reason it slowed down. That resulted in queues outside some emergency rooms, specifically in Birmingham. And if you look it up, I'm sure you'll find a news article on that. So it was, it's actually critical. It's part of the national critical infrastructure of the UK. So this contract was coming to an end. We had to think about what are we going to do. No contract extensions. We'd exhausted those. So we had an absolute deadline. I already mentioned that it was really, really important to the NHS, so no downtime. The NHS is a 24/7 organisation, and we can't say, oh, bank holiday weekend, we'll do it then. Doesn't work. We had to migrate 1.5 billion records and documents. We talk about regulation. We are regulated quite strictly because this is clinical safety. This is about people's lives. Any mistakes that we make could have dire consequences. We also had to work collaboratively with the incumbent supplier. That went well. Aim was reduce the running cost of the spine, which was quite expensive. So, with that in mind, what could possibly go wrong? Quite a lot. So, if you then think, okay, well, let's use Google or Wikipedia and look at all the failed projects. And Wikipedia does have a list of all failed projects. Amazing. So there's Connecting for Health, the National Programme for IT, listed as a failed project. NPFIT was described by members of Parliament as one of the worst and most expensive contracting fiascos ever. Right, so there's no pressure on us at that moment to get this right, obviously. But you know, we are up there with some of the biggest failures in IT. This was on BT's website. And you know, quite proudly, they presented this as one of the biggest projects ever, using cutting-edge technologies to meet the demanding service level agreements and response times required. The contract and continues to be one of the largest IT programs in the world, consuming over 15,000 man-years of effort to date, and over 3,000 servers are hosted and supported. So what did that sort of success look like? Spine can release with up to £30 million of transition costs. One release a year, and if we were lucky, we didn't have to roll back. It cost us £50 million just to keep the lights on, so no features, no functional changes to it. And don't worry, it was stable as long as you didn't touch it. You know, that seriously, you know, it was a really, really good system. It was just so complicated that, you know, you start messing about with it, it broke. So our question was, does replacing spine have to follow a pattern? So if we go down the same old thinking, we'll get the same answer. So let's think differently about this. We did some market research. So right, we're thinking about doing some Spine 2. So do some market engagement with some big integrators. And given that the costs of Spine 1, if I can call it that, were public domain knowledge, which was in fact £750 million, the big integrators looked at this and thought, well, if that costs £750 million then, it must be about £1 billion today. So that was just felt wrong to us. It really felt wrong. At the time, there was a government ICT strategy that helped us a lot in our thinking and push the boundaries. And it talked about no more oligopolies. It talked about no more contracts over £100 million. So that played into our thinking and into our eventual strategy. So we rebuilt the NHS Spine using in-house services. We brought it in-house. At the time, we also said, let's go open source. Given that traditionally we have come from an Oracle-based solution, not just Oracle, that's too simple. This was a bespoke version of Oracle. So if we had wanted to make it more expensive, I don't think we could. We had to stand up an end-to-end service. So this wasn't just about bringing it in-house and finding a bunch of developers and running it. This was about, we're taking something on big here. This is a national service that the NHS is totally reliant on. We had the business knowledge of how and what we wanted to do. So we did that. We decided that we would do it in-house. We would bring in a collaborative development partner, because although we had people who could develop, we didn't know how to do it really properly with some structure and with commenting in the right places and making sure that we weren't just creating another monster. So we brought in another collaborative development partner. That was an organisation called BGSS. And for Spine Core, there were one or two people that actually knew the business use cases, and we built it from that. We also used an Agile approach. So what did that mean at the time? I'll come on to that. People thought we were absolutely mad. This is a government department. We're going to use open source. We're going to use an Agile approach, and we're going to build it ourselves. Today, people are still very, very angry that we did that. Yeah, it made people scared, it made them angry, but we did it. Spine Core went live in August 2014. Spine CIS, the card identity service, and SUS, which is the secondary uses service, went live in February 2015. SUS is an interesting one, actually. So SUS processes and supports £30 billion of payments to hospitals in the NHS. So, hospitals seem to be quite keen on not screwing that up. I was given that piece of work as we were progressing quite successfully in delivering Spine and CIS. And it was seen as a little bit of a failing piece at the time. And my boss said, "Oh, Andrew, how's things going?" "Okay, good, thanks." "How do you fancy taking on SUS as well?" Well, not to look a gift horse in the mouth, I said, "Yeah, we can do that, but it will be a lift and shift rather than a total redevelopment." Little did I know then that, it was bespoke. It wasn't just a simple lift and shift. It was on Sun machines. We had to move it to HP commodity hardware, and it was just an utter nightmare because we had to move all that data at the same time. For Spine Core, when we first started looking at the transition, when I said bank holiday weekend, we were seriously thinking, well, it's going to take this long. It's really, really hard and difficult to transition from legacy service to this new thing that we'd built. We got that down to 12 hours, and we were still weren't happy. So from full bank holiday weekend to 12 hours. In the end, through the genius of some of our technical guys. We got it down to 5 minutes. So what did it cost? It took 100 man-years. Just remind me what BT was? You weren't listening, were you? 15,000 man-years. This is 100 man-years. Requires 100 commodity services. What was BT? 3,000. Release costs are less than 1% of the previous release costs. And we reduced the running cost by £26 million. It only takes 30 people to run it. And we make a release every single week. Does it work? Yeah. Since it went live, we've had 5 nines. Last 2 years, it's had 100% availability. The way it's built, we have an active data center. So at a component level, we can fail over to the other data center. Most of the time, it's automated, and we get notified. Processes over 1 billion messages a month. So we hit that milestone last October. And in terms of saving for the NHS, I'm not really keen on these, but some people like them. It saves 800 working days every single day for the NHS. Now, what they actually do with that time is another question, so I get that. So that approach was successful. We've replicated it across the Digital Delivery Centre, and that's how the Digital Delivery Centre became into being, if you like. So we had a project called Spine 2. It was very focused. At the start, we had 100 people. I think 30 people. It grew to about 100. Today, because of the success of what we did there, we've been asked to do more and more and more in the way that we've done it. So today we've grown to over 500 people based in Leeds. So what did we learn? Build it, you run it. You can't pass off things to anybody else and then point the finger. If it goes wrong, you've got to take the responsibility for it and do something about it. That is one of the key things. Invest less in predictions, allow things to fail fast, learn from it. That was one of the hardest lessons that we had to give the wider organisation, because when you said, allow people to fail, we can't possibly fail. We learned such a lot by failure. The trick is to do it quickly so it doesn't cost so much. Don't leave it 2 years and down the line until you actually know that you've got a big failure and you end up on Wikipedia saying you've got a failed project. One of my heroes, Deming, uniformity of system behavior, reduce variation. Build it right, but also build the right thing. CIS was a really, really interesting one, because we were running out of time when we were building the care identity service. So around the NHS, there are 10,000 registration authority managers, and they have the responsibility of ensuring that you are who you say you are. So you've got to take documents in to prove that you are a doctor or anybody who wants to access the spine. As I say, we were running out of time, and the only way we were going to meet the timescales was to reduce the amount of work that we were doing. So we went out and explained our predicament to these RA managers. and the reception wasn't that good. But we kept talking to them and saying, look, we'll deliver the most important things to you. We'll deliver those first, and then we'll immediately follow it up with the things that we don't think we need for day one. Eventually, we persuaded them to do that. So I think, off the top of my head, I think it was about 67% of the total features that were in the system we delivered. And we said we would deliver the rest in the next months. So when we delivered it, people were over the moon. And they started asking questions. Can it do this? Well, yes, show us the value of where it provides, where that feature can be used, and we'll put it on the backlog. We did that, and people were amazed how quickly we could deliver things. Weekly cadence of delivery. What about the remaining percentage of features that we originally said we would do? Oh no, we're not interested in that. Can you do this other stuff? So the big rumpus about you're not going to deliver everything that we need was just a fallacy. They found comfort in knowing that it was going to be the same. Have a ruthless focus on value and don't gold plate it. So keep the team small. Scale is made by splitting problems across the team. So we had 100 people. I've got 500 people today. I've had a challenge in growing pains of the Digital Delivery Centre. But we try and keep to these principles of keeping teams small and keeping the right people talking to each other rather than hundreds of people coming together. The other thing is we do follow a loose Spotify model, but we do what's right for us. So don't just follow a model because it's you think it's the right thing to do. You've got to do what's right for you. So I have a number of tribes. It grows, it contracts based on the work that we have. I don't mandate that you will take and operate in a certain way. If you want to use Scrum, then that's up to the team to decide. If you want to do continuous integration, that's fine. If you want to do Scrumban, that's fine. Do what's right for the project that you're working on. And there are differing levels of maturity. Some do 2-week sprints, some do 4-week sprints. They do what's right for them. And as long as they are delivering value, which is the one thing that I do measure people on, then that's good for the NHS. So I did take some slides out of this presentation. So this is about reducing lead times. So we don't just talk about Agile in our team, we talk about Lean, because I think people talk about Agile all the time, and actually sometimes I think they mean Lean. And I've seen some exercises where you have consultants come in and they will do a coin exercise with you. Have anyone seen that, where you have to turn the coins over, then pass it on to the next person? That's Agile. No, it's Lean. Okay. So the point about these boards and these walls is that they're visible. There's nothing to hide behind. We know what's coming up. We know what's on the backlog. Somebody can walk past the board and say, oh, what's that? What's happening there? It helps build a conversation between different people. I can also walk past and say, hold on, why have we got so many things in test? Or why is so many things in waiting in the board? So where next for us? So we eat some of our own dog food. So has anyone heard of vMost? vMost is just a way of ensuring that you're focusing on the right thing. It stands for vision, mission, objectives, strategies, and tactics. So this is vision and mission for the DDC. Some of it was a challenge from our current CEO to become the best product design and DevOps team in the public sector. Yeah, laudable aim, and actually the team buy into it. So this again is on a big wall in our office, and the team self-select and basically say, I want to help with a certain aspect of that. And underneath that we'll have lots and lots of tactics, and somebody will pick it up and say, right, I want to make something better. But as long as it all feeds up to the missions and then the vision of, attract and retain great people. So we want to have a facility to go to conferences, or we want to bring in third parties to tell us about what they're doing. Then actually people go out and do that and make that happen. They've got the autonomy to do that.